And now, let's talk about wall cards. When I was an assistant editor, I assisted and worked for editors who used wall cards like this, but most of the time they didn't have pictures. Most of the time they liked to work with text, with words. So it would only say, scene 141, Neil eats, and it would give you the location, interior space capsule day. It would say that on a white index card with just text. And some editors work that way, and it works great for them. They love it. Give them a full picture of the whole movie. I find it really helpful, especially for a feature film, because a feature film has over 100 scenes usually. It depends. In any case, a movie is such a large endeavor. It's such a large beast. It's almost like a big ship, a big ocean liner. And so for me, I very easily, when I'm working on tiny little changes in a scene, it's very easy for me to forget what the overall is. Sometimes, especially if we're moving scenes around and I'm in the middle of working with the director, it's hard for me to remember, does this scene come here or does it come later? I can't remember. But I have this roadmap of the movie that I can look at. When I started editing myself, I really started using this kind of system. And I did this right away, even on the small independent feature films that I first started out doing before Whiplash. I definitely did this for Whiplash. So every movie I have edited, I've always had this, I've always had a wall with picture wall cards of every scene. The thing I love about these wall cards is not only that I can see the whole movie, but that I can use it as a tool to communicate with my filmmakers. So I'm working with my director. And for example, when I was working on Whiplash, I encouraged Damien Chazelle to look at my first cut of Whiplash. I showed him my first cut. And we watched it. It was very rough. And again, I based my first cut on the script and on whatever I try to use whatever takes Damien told the script supervisor were good. And it was very rough. And Damien turned to me afterwards and he said, "So, do you think we have a movie here?" And I said, absolutely. And I think we're going to have a great movie. It's rough right now, but we'll have a great movie. I stood up. I got in front of my wall of Whiplash scene cards. They're all pictures like this. And I started pointing to him. I started going through the whole wall. I said, okay, well, scene one I think is going to be great. We just have to tweak it a little bit, get the rhythm right or something. But maybe I didn't use all the right performance pieces, but we'll get there. I think it's going to be great. Scene 2 and 3, that I think it gets a little long and it's not really clear, in terms of the point of view. But we can get into that. But I don't think it's going to be a problem. And scene 5 is performances are fantastic. I just think that maybe a little bit of what J.K. Simmons is saying, what Fletcher's saying, gets a little repetitive. Maybe we think about looking at that. And by the way, when I start saying these things, I like to talk about things gently with the filmmaker, especially when you show them a first cut of their movie. I try not to be cavalier about it because I know it's very sensitive. I try not to say, oh, when this thing is terrible, we can just take this out and delete it. Maybe that's the director's favorite thing. So I go through the whole wall, and I'm able to, because it's here, the whole movie, I'm able to talk about things. I forget the order of the scenes, but thanks to the wall, I can actually say, and then the next scene, I think is going to be great, and this scene needs some work. What I found is the directors use this as a tool also. They will, to express their point, they'll go up to the wall and they say, what happens if we move this over here? They don't even have to say what they're talking about. They can just show me. And so I find that it's a useful tool, not just for me, but for the filmmakers, not just for the directors, but for the producers. They come in and they can actually start describing their issues or their questions about the story. So I can't overstate how important I think this is to the process. It's certainly been important to my process. I now have a map on my wall of all the scenes, and say we start with the index card, which is how I started. There are these blank, not blank, but there are these white cards, and it tells me the scenes. To me, because of my visual mind, that only takes me so far. It's not that useful to me because I just see a bunch of words, and they're so tiny, they're so small. But it's a starting point, and we put that up on the wall. And then as the film comes in, my assistants will take a screenshot of a representative frame. I let them choose it. I'm too busy doing other things, so I trust them. They'll just choose, oh, I like this frame. I think this is a good representative frame for this scene. And they will print out on photo paper on a little card that is 5 by 7. These cards are 5 by 7. They'll print out a photo picture wall card, which is basically what you see here. And they will replace the white index cards with the picture one. And they do this every day. I insist that they update it as soon as the film comes in, as quickly as possible. And so that means that every day I can see this movie growing. I can see what parts have been filmed, and that is really helpful to me. I know this stuff at the end of the movie, which is the moon landing. I know that's something that Damien is going to want to look at first when he's done, because he always starts at the end, right? So I know we're going to do that, but it looks like they haven't shot anything. It's still the white cards. So the way the wall looks at the beginning of editing will often look very different than what it does by the end of the movie. So every movie I have, I definitely use these wall cards. Basically, a list of scenes. Here is a sample continuity from a movie that I was an assistant editor on called Crazy Heart, a movie with Jeff Bridges, a movie where he won an Academy Award for Best Actor. Your assistant can go to the script and look at every single scene and then enter that, create a list. And we do it in FileMaker Pro. You can do it in, it doesn't matter what you do it in. Every scene number, and then you have one line at the top says, and this is an abbreviation, INT for interior bowling alley. And then it describes what the scene is. Tony meets so-and-so, and they play this song. And so it's a list of all the scenes in the movie. That's actually why we use FileMaker Pro, because FileMaker Pro is a database where you can enter data and have it formatted to look like the continuity form I just showed you, but then you can switch to a different layout and have it look like one of these cards. In terms of the other document I showed you, the continuity, that's something that's very important for other people like producers. Same information as in the wall card except for without pictures. Has a real number on it, so it has all the scenes in reel 3, and it tells you scenes 40 through 62. These documents are things that are very handy for you as an editor. You can look at your wall, but you can also look at this. You can take this with you someplace. If you go to a screening, you can have this. But this is often something that the studio will ask you for when they see a cut later on. It's often something that producers like to have because they'll want to talk about the movie. You may be out to lunch with the producers, or you may be at a screening with the producers, and they say, and they'll want to talk about something. Yeah, we watched it. The audience didn't seem to like this scene. What part of the movie is it in? Someone get me a continuity. Can we get a continuity? That's where your crew, your assistants have to have that, have to have those things always updated, have to have them on hand.